course. How are you guys doing?
Good. All right. Did the rewatch.
It was so great, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
delightful.
yes.
Absolutely.
I actually hadn't gotten to watch it this week because between work and a 3-year-old and everything else. So
Excuses.
I know. 3-year-old.
Yeah, it's not quite my own, but I just got my sister had a baby.
Oh,
My
Nice.
sister
I
just had a
love your
baby.
shirt.
Right.
nice.
Very cool.
And so I have a new niece. She's 9 days old.
Oh wow.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Yeah,
So
they're very
I'll
hard
have her
that age.
watching Community like within second month. When is the right time to introduce her to the show?
Well, the Christmas episode with where she ends with the word sex is probably 3 or 4 at least.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Just play it in the womb like Mozart. You got to train the kid really early.
Yeah,
Well, you lose
it's
the
definitely
visual.
already too late.
You may have waited
Yeah.
too long. No, while we've got you, to go ahead and tell you that was a really good episode of Mythic Quest, and I watched it
Oh.
as soon as it released. That
Thank
was
you.
so much fun, and it does everything that we love about television that it's supposed to do. It's funny. Danny Pudi's in it.
That's it. End of list. End of list.
And you have people who are helped, and so that I thought that was the best part.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I mean, I definitely pulled a lot of experience from working on Community, and always the idea was always that you don't let the medium control the story. You sort of let the story be first and then let the medium accentuate it. So I actually think it was just kind of the perfect workplace plus like the current situation and the fact that we could do it as fast as we could. But yeah, I'm getting tons of people are reaching out. It's all just been that and then community stuff. Like it's felt like a really beautiful, nostalgic time. I'm having a pretty good couple of weeks here.
Yes. Well, it's been
Nice.
great. I mean, I can speak as one of the older parts of the group, not just from the gray hair, but from the fandom, that this is about as active as it's been since
Oh
season
my
3.
gosh, yes.
It's just
Oh, yeah.
nothing. This is
More
just
so
like
even.
just like when they took the break,
It's
for the
like-
Christmas break.
I'm
It
like
was,
getting flashbacks of when we did like flash mobs and sent letters to NBC, and it was a crazy time.
Goatees.
I'm getting
Goatees,
people
yeah.
reaching out doing first viewings. It's like I'm hearing
Yes.
a lot of that. This is the
Ooh, yeah.
first time I've ever gone through it, and so that's really wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
That's actually our podcast is going through it with somebody who has never watched or knows anything about Community before, and she absolutely loves it. So good job.
It's just
Yeah.
I feel like there's something about the 10 years, like being about that
Yeah.
far away. I mean, it's kind of an amazing thing. Like Danny's kid, his wife went into labor while we were shooting the Law and Order episode.
Oh my
And so I remember him having to like rush out to go to the hospital to be with his wife. And now his kids are watching the show. So like that is
Awesome.
how, isn't that crazy? Like he's telling me, oh, these are their favorite episodes and this is what they watch and this is what they like. And you're just like, wow, that's just nuts.
Yeah. That's really sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
oh wow.
It's always heartwarming with Community. Where's that music to come in and like,
Well, that's
It's always
well,
up here. It's always on up here.
we'll
I
be
have
borrowing
to
a little
say-
bit of it.
I need to say to you guys though, thank you so much for like sort of being such a driving force behind all this like renewed enthusiasm, because I can see you on Twitter and stuff taking in newbies and being like, let us show you the way of what you're gonna do now that you're in the depression of being done with it. Here's all the stuff that you can now.
The expanded universe.
Yes.
Yeah, so thanks for doing that. I mean, it's just awesome, and I know that the cast and everyone involved with it like recognizes it, and has always like Community has always been so interwoven with its fan base from the very beginning, by necessity, I think. But it's just so great that it has never ended, and you all are such a big part of that. So
No, they have really.
thank you.
I'm non-podcaster, and Mike, who's in the car, is not.
Same here as well.
Yeah. So we are. What we've done is like y'all have a new episode. We're going to retweet that. We're going to share it with people.
Yeah.
We're going to tell people how we liked it. I mean, it's we're just thrilled to have everybody doing this.
It's crazy. I got a DM from someone in France who said that they listened to my podcast, and it was like the first English podcast that they were listening to, and it was their first time ever watching Community all the way through. And I was like,
Wow.
my heart, this is what this needs during this time, is all of these people.
That's
So
what whenever we started our podcast, it was actually before it went to Netflix. I think a lot of us ended up starting before it went to Netflix. And just the number of people we knew who all of a sudden started being like, so we started listening to the podcast because we know you, but we want to rewatch Community because it's been 10 years since we watched it. And that was really nice because we were like, well, if nothing else happens, we're getting people to rewatch the show.
Did everyone else also think that? Because I had the thought, the reason I started was because I texted people that I was talking to, because I was active, almost 10 years ago in the fandom. And I was like, well, should we start a podcast? Like, and this was like in November, right before everything, the world blew up. And I was like, maybe we'll be the only people that listen to this podcast. And then I found all of you. I was like, well then, maybe we won't be.
It's weird because I used to I watched it when it first aired and I was always into it, but I was never part of the fandom at all. And I started podcasting and I was like, we'll see. And then all of a sudden, I started meeting all these people and I was like, oh no, there's a lot of people who really love the show and have formed their own community because of it. And it's just been amazing experiences all around, which is just so lovely.
Yeah, I think that's such a good special. Oh, sorry. It's such a good special bonus feature of this show is that basically buying into it, you buy into this whole community if you choose to, of people that are in love with it and have a shared language about it and touchstones and all of these things and they're constantly making. I mean, it's evolving. Even the fan art and stuff. It's there have been, the show never felt like it went away, which is really an amazing achievement. Because it did, but or maybe it hasn't. I don't know. I have no information. Maybe there's community left to make.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping for that.
It's pretty wild
we got
because
ideas.
for me, we were doing a Futurama podcast, and that finally ended. And so my co-host and I were like, well, obviously the next show we've got to do is Community, and so. About half of our listenership are people who are from the previous podcast. And so they had never seen Community. And so they're kind of going through this, episode by episode. We've got a fan out in Germany who, didn't even know about Community. They had never heard of it. And,
great.
And I got a message from her one day that's like, yeah, I was trying to just watch along with you guys, but over the weekend I kind of binged. Good.
I'm
That's
sorry.
exactly what Community does. You win, and then you can't leave. So.
And you're doing the Lord's work. You're converting
Exactly.
people over to the community.
I literally had multiple people. There was one of my friends was just had a baby during all of this nonsense, and so she's like, I got a lot of time on my hands. I think I'm gonna start watching Community. And I was like, please text me all of your thoughts. No thought is an invalid thought, and you can text me a lot because I have a lot of thoughts.
I do feel bad for our co-host because she can't just consume it all in
Right.
Oh, that's got to be so
We're
tough.
no, you have to stop.
But that's
So it's like you want to spoil her, but you
way.
can't. Yeah,
Week by week.
true.
You've got to
That's the
threaten to
OG
cancel
way to
the
watch
podcast.
Community because week by week, that's the way that people watched it when it first came out. You had to wait for the next one.
Or
And
sometimes waiting
you had-
3 months.
So I'm saying you should threaten to cancel the podcast at the end of every season.
Constantly
for a
on the
couple months,
verge of
just
cancellation. The
to-
podcast is constantly on the verge of cancellation. We didn't get enough ratings this episode, so
So we're gonna stop.
I
for-
remember coming into the writers' room and being like 2.2. That was our number. 2.2.
It was ratings
That was
junk
the number.
food. Andy used to tweet so it was every Friday morning I'd be at work and refreshing Twitter do we
would
get
all be
ratings
like-
junk food today?
I remember that.
Ratings donuts.
It was crazy. I mean, we were always there. Usually we didn't get to watch it live because we were still at work. So we wouldn't get to watch it, but everybody would just kind of like be on their phones, like refreshing Twitter. Like, so actually my experience of watching the episodes is usually watching Twitter, watch them first, and then I would go home at some point, and then I would watch. But I had some days where it was like I had to catch up because I had 2 episodes DVR'd that I hadn't watched yet. The cast says they never watch them live,
Never saw
like
it.
because never, and I totally believe it. So
it's in the
fun
commentaries. They're talking about episodes that are going on that they're not talking about. They're, oh, the other episode is airing right now because they're there Thursday night recording the audio.
Yeah.
So
that's why also actors and writers are so bad at trivia nights about the shows that they worked on. Because 1, you didn't have time to enjoy it, and 2, you remember all the versions of something that didn't make it to the screen, so you're like, oh god, what did we eventually, because you're like, we had a conversation at 3 a.m. about what Britta should drink when she goes to Troy's birthday party, and we talked about it forever, and it's like, then I think it was a vodka, a bunch of olives, I can't remember, but
vodka neat 4 olives, I think.
4 olives, like that. What we settled on, but like I remember that we had a long conversation about it.
Oh, that
does
sound bad.
So that's why you guys always win. The fans always like just destroy everybody, as they should.
No, we're really thrilled about all of this. It's been exciting. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was stepping on you, Alex.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Megan, you and I had a chance to talk. But I think it's hopefully you're getting a sense of all the personalities we have across the spectrum. It's pretty neat, and there's no overlap really. It's pretty.
They don't even
cool.
use the same music as an intro.
No, we don't.
Not one of them. There's a new one that starts on Monday. They're not here because we don't know them yet. But there's a new one has dropped some podcast.
Is this the one that makes us the Greendale 7 now? Like,
yes,
with this
there's
edition, now we're the Greendale
discuss
7.
membership policies first.
Wait, how did you find
out? Hazing policy, please.
Yes.
How did you find out that somebody was about to do a podcast before they
created
a Twitter account? We have ways.
They created a Twitter account and they tweeted one tweet, and I saw them. We are really looking for people.
Here's what's amazing about the people that are drawn to community. They are like really dedicated, and they are like, they see everything. I remember when we released the bottle episode and the monkey grabbing the pen, I remember having a conversation in the writer's room where they were like, well, we'll wait like a week, and if nobody sees it, we'll like release something that like points people to finding it. And it was 1 hour after the East Coast viewing that I saw someone online be like, oh, you can see the monkey grab the pen, and they had already like and it was like the whole thing. I was like, oh.
I used to do so I used to write reviews for the show, so I reviewed it on a website that I started every year since season 3 all the way up until when it ended on Yahoo Screen. And I used to pause like the videos and read the whiteboards, because even the whiteboards and the blackboards had things, and people, I was like, I'm sure that no one else is going to notice this. And sure enough, community fans.
Somebody saw it.
Always.
So, and then I spoke to Jaime in my last episode, and he went to the CommuniCon a few times, and he was saying that he got to do like extra work in the background, and they were given phones, and he was like, on the phone there was like an email conversation between like admin and students, and I was like that's how much work was put into it. Like, these are things that I don't see, but like that's awesome, and I appreciate it.
And he hosted a panel, correct?
Yes.
At Comic-Con, so he wasn't just attending; he was hosting a panel. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
And it was for you guys, like the props. Like, how was your relationship with the props department?
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, but it was like, stressful, because we were always coming at them being like, here's the thing, and they were like, but it was great. They were awesome. As everybody was, like, straight on down the line, like everyone was just had this, like, they had locked in, and they were like, this is how we do things. You need a giant cookie, like, we're going to get one. I don't know how we have to do it, but like everything was like that. It was like, how quick can we get it for you? But it's always really fun with props. Is always fun because you end up having the weirdest conversations in the production meetings and stuff. Like, well, on Community, I was just actually telling Gillian the other day about this moment, asking her if she remembered this there was a tag, and I can't remember on which episode now, but where Britta has given them all like Scantron tests to determine, like, for her psychology class, and then she gathers them all and she's like, oh guys, why have you made penises on all of these? And then she's flipping through them, and then they're like, Britta, what are you talking about? And there's nothing. So we get on set that day and we're like about to shoot this tag. That made it to air, right? That tag?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It absolutely did. Yeah.
I like can't even remember which one.
The ones.
Sometimes we shot like sometimes a couple tags or things got so anyway, so we get on set that day and all of the Scantron sheets, they have penises on them. Like they're drawn like with the bubbles filled in. And I was like, oh, and I had this long conversation where I had to explain, like, no, the joke is that Britta seeing a penis isn't a penis. It was just like a lot of those kind of conversations in the community. But honestly, there's also so much, because the people that worked on the show loved it so much. They were always coming to us with ideas about, like, what if we did this? What if we placed this here? Like the Annie's boobs nest, for instance, like the prop department gathered a bunch of stuff for me, and we're like, these are all the things that we remember from over the years that fans might be into. So, yeah.
I'm still thinking about the fact that there are like 6 Scantrons out there with penises.
Oh, there's probably 40. Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody bought them at the auction, so somebody kept them.
The one thing that my biggest regret from the entire time that I spent there was that I didn't take a purple pen, and I really should reach out. I really should reach out to the props department and ask if there's any way that they still have any of those just sitting around. But since that episode, I've stolen one prop from every episode that I've made of anything. I mean, I should say I didn't steal. I have asked the props master nicely if I could take the prop home with me.
Awesome.
So I have, like, from the Law and Order episode, I have like the Polaroids of the smashed yams that they were like showing to Pierce. I have like one of those Polaroids.
Wow.
And, things like that. Just
or Pam.
Something. Yeah.
Chris Brandon, I had on. He's helped build sets for 6 years on the show. He's actually sending me a piece of the Troy and Abed's apartment, the wood paneling on the wall.
Wow.
Wow.
So cool.
Yeah, so, maybe I can split off a splinter and send you some.
There you go. We just all get envelopes in the mail that are unmarked.
It was a small sliver of wood.
From Mean Girls.
Horrifying gift out of context.
Actually have a big, should be one of my quarantine activities, but in the closet at home, I have a big box, like a plastic box of my community stuff with all my scripts and all whatever is in there. I don't know.
Yes.
I think there's probably a lot of fan art in there too, because I also was collecting that at the time. But I did find my I have 4 of the Christmas claymation figurines.
Yes.
I have 4 of them. But I want the whole set. They never even made the whole set, right?
They've never made a Danny, and they never made a Yvette.
It's so cute.
On my desk right now. That's Jen's, by the way.
This is gonna be mine.
Ballerani.
Yes, that was Jen.
That's my Ballerani. He's
yes,
because I don't have one.
Yeah, her name's on the box. You can't see, but yes. No, NBC sold them right at the end of the show. Sold them for next to nothing.
Yeah.
And my wife went on and spent like $50 and got as many as she could.
Wow.
I was just excited when they made Funkos, because I have a collection at my desk at work. So I finally was able to buy the little, I have Annie on my desk at work, but
that's so cute.
I have the little Greendale human being, and my daughter, my 4-year-old, actually loves it. So she will ask for the human being and then walk around and play with it. And like now
doesn't find it creepy.
That's
find it creepy
crazy.
at all, because I know the human being. I find it creepy. And like now it's currently like sitting on the shelf with her like dolls and stuff. I'm like, this is great.
But then she'll have such a good association when she starts watching the show.
Oh yeah.
When she realizes what we're watching.
That's my favorite character.
But all the play dates are going to be really weird when you can have them again.
It's not a product. It's not a product that I have, but I have had Abed as my text tone, him saying cool, 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 cool for 10 years. And it's funny because one of the I think it's Ed's podcast.
Yeah.
He has these 3 cools that he does every episode.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm listening to it with my Bluetooth on, and he'll go cool, and I'll be like checking my phone. Did I get a text?
Damn it.
Every single time. It's really funny.
You DM'd me about that, and now I feel bad every time I edit an episode. Like I literally think about you every time.
Somewhere Mike is
very confused
Mike is
right
like,
now.
I'm like,
My
he's
favorite.
driving somewhere right now, and I almost caused an accident. Right?
But the more
Don't
fun
do it
idea
while
is to
driving.
have extra cools the next time I'm on Ed's podcast.
There you
So
go.
his,
There you go.
so his phone constantly sounds like he's getting text, and then texting while it's playing.
It's so weird to look back now at those moments, and like I'm sure whenever they wrote the first cool, they never, or Danny might have just done it on set, but like there's no like I was doing a rewatch recently, and I remember seeing over the course of season 2 that we basically just stopped doing any tags that weren't with Troy and Abed. Like it was like there were tags at the beginning that like didn't involve them, and then slowly but surely it was like, oh, why are we doing anything else but Troy and Abed tags? But like stuff like cool and all that, like you never put it in knowing, oh, this is going to be incredible and this is the fans are going to love it. It's like they select what everybody, because I've had conversations on other shows, like with on Sunny, for instance. I've talked to Rob about it, and he's like, they had an argument about on set about whether Charlie should not, because Charlie Day wanted to do this improv about Charlie not being able to read, which is now like everyone's favorite part about his character. And they had an argument about like Rob being like, no, that's too dumb, that's too far, that's too whatever. And then now it's like the thing. So it's always so fun to like look back and go like, we just had no idea what was going to be, you know, the thing that everybody really latched onto and just decided was, but that's great because they tell you what they love and then you just give them more of that.
Exactly.
And the cool's in the pilot.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So it's
So-
just happens.
Wow.
I latched
yeah.
onto Streets Ahead. I do think
Yes.
it was wildfire.
And it's not even weird. It's just European, and we're uncultured.
weird.
But that's
Europe
it.
is
That's my
weird.
favorite part. The European fans like, why is this such a big deal to you people? Like,
Oh no, your
oh, well,
streets behind.
your streets behind. Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
I always
Somebody
forget.
used it somebody used it on a podcast and an official. It's a boring economics European podcast, and they used it. And somebody's like, I found somebody using Streets Ahead, and then the Europeans like, yeah, we
It's a
always
thing.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always
It's
forget
just
about Streets
that
Ahead.
reminds.
And
that
then when I do my rewatch of it for like 2 weeks, I'm like, that's Streets Ahead. That's all I say all
Yes,
the
that's all
time.
you
And then I forget about it again until the next time I watch that
Just certain
episode.
things.
So
sounds like it should be a thing, and in fact it is.
It is.
And so I just remember when I hear that about how like that was just based on Harmon would read Twitter the next day and he could get 10,000 tweets that were like, this is the most amazing show, and then he would find the one person that would
Hated
say
it.
like something, and he'd be like, in the next episode we're gonna do this thing about Streets Behind or whatever. And you're just like, why can't you just let it go? But then that's me almost talking him out of putting something in that everyone loves. So it's like it all goes in.
Ugh.
I
Yeah,
think
if
my
you're-
favorite.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Mike. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think my favorite tag, speaking of tags at the end, and it is a Troy and Abed one, is the painting on the wall. And he's saying, just believe, Troy. And he goes,
So good.
and you see him go to run in. It's like the Horsebot 3000 one. It's laughter mixed with almost somewhat
Heart
like
ripping.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, your heart's ripped out for Troy, and that yet you're still laughing. How
Between the
can
end
you
of
do it?
season between the end of season 1 to the end of season 2, like the last couple episodes of season 1 and the first couple episodes of season 2, like Abed is playing with Troy's little heart in several different times. And I'm like, Abed, you're my favorite, but also you keep wounding him.
You're very cruel to him. Yeah.
You're very mean.
But that's
Also-
what bonded them.
Yeah.
You know,
You
that's
know,
what
he
you
kept
gotta.
hunting him, and he didn't know.
So
It
great.
was so good.
Well, that
Yeah.
was just, it's always just never supposed to be the plan. Like, again, it's like they didn't, at the beginning of Community, they didn't go like, oh, those two guys are going to be the guys that have the best chemistry and, you know, whatever. I think Dan has said before that he thought it was going to be Chevy and Donald, like,
Yeah.
just
No
working
Chevy
off
in
one another.
anything.
Yeah.
If you saw movies in the 80s, you know it's just Chevy.
There's no Chevy and
I grew up watching Fletch, was one of my like favorite movies.
Yes,
So when
Fletch.
I met Chevy Chase, anytime he said anything nice to me or laughed at a joke that I had in the table, which was very rare, but I was like, Fletch likes the joke. Like I could just, it was just like, I don't know. There is that thing, and I'm sure people will have this in the community too, where it's like the thing that you watched at like a certain time of your life, and if you meet that person again, it's like they have a straight shot into anything they say to you. You're like, okay, right, put it right and straight in my heart, and I'll remember it forever.
Now we were gonna have McKenna on for like 5 minutes for Paradigms, and then McKenna invited Joel McHale to it, and then we went from 5 minutes to where we had a plan to 30 minutes of those two talking to each other because there wasn't any reason for us to interrupt, and that's exactly where I was. It's like,
you just let it happen.
Jeffrey's here. Just let him go.
McKenna also had his first child while we were shooting Community, and I remember it was during the Ocean's 11 Chang.
Chang Dynasty.
That's the last one, yeah.
Chang Dynasty. Yeah, it was during that episode that his wife ended a labor. And he was on. I was like, it's a little nuts down here. Also on that episode, I remember going on to set, and there was a guy, I think a new like lighting guy or something. Somebody was new to the crew, and he walked up to me and he was like, "Hey, what's this show about?" And I was like, "Oh, it's about a guy who was a lawyer, and then he was sort of a liar, so he had to end up going back to community college to like get a real degree." And he looks around, this guy looks around, and he sees like Chang on a tiger, this weird, like a spinning thing that with knives, and he looks back at me and he was like, "Do you know what show you're?" I was like, and I said to him, I was like, "You kind of have to watch it, I guess."
Yeah. I have a friend who's watching, we just recorded a podcast episode, and she's like on the 3rd episode watching it for the first time, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm really liking it." I was like, first season, it's definitely about a community college. Second season and on, you're just gonna embrace the weird, just like enjoy it. It's a ride. Like, and
the speed at which things accelerate in Greendale, they go from zero to the entire college changing in a day. You're like,
it was like the pillows and blankets episode where all of a sudden it's like kick over a trash can and chaos like just erupts at the school.
Oh, Modern Warfare.
That too.
Modern Warfare. Jeff was taking a nap.
Yep. Nap.
Just 1 hour.
1 hour later.
Entire campus is destroyed.
First of all, we only had 22 minutes to work with, and Harmon liked to cram in a lot of stories. So you have to jump off the block doing something. But secondly, I think that like kind of that was a function of always feeling like the show was about to be canceled and that you had to do your biggest, best thing. Like, don't wait for tomorrow. Don't do a treading water episode because like they could yank us mid-season, and they did. So you're just like, let's just do it. If we have an idea for something big and crazy, let's just do it now. And I think that the show was just always like that. Like get it out, get it. Because I've worked on other things where you're doing 24 episodes and you're like, okay, we have these big plot points we want to hit over the season, but like there are episodes in between that are just like a day in the life, sort of like not contributing. And we just didn't have that kind of time in Community. With like everyone has to count. And so but that's what makes the rewatch so good, because there's just not dud episodes. You just like and that's what all my favorite shows are like, that where you're just like, oh this one,
Do you think it gave it its special blend? Like, right, what we like about Community is probably part of the pressure that you guys felt always, so you were always delivering that kind of thing.
Even like the fluffy light episodes, there are no light fluffy episodes. There's always something. Like I'm always feeling something, and we're always learning a lesson, even if it's one of the filler episodes. And I've definitely seen shows where you have those episodes where you're like, this was clearly, they were like, we need to hit 24 episodes, so let's just throw this in there, and the quality is totally subpar. And that does not happen on Community.
And I think that also was a factor of like the cast never knowing whether they were going to be together again. So some of those moments at the ends of seasons where they're hugging and they're like the sentimental. It's like it felt like that for the cast, I'm sure, not knowing whether they were going to be coming back or not. So and then the joyous like season premieres of like this is going to be different. It was like always every season premiere.
I was just talking about that because the episode that I just recorded with friends was about tragically canceled TV shows. And so like having that, and I told the friend who has just started watching Community, I was like, after season 3, really after regional holiday music and then getting yanked from the schedule and then not coming back for 3 months. But from season 3 on, and I was like, it was perpetually like we were group hugging. The fandom was group hugging and crying at the end of every season because we're like, are we going to come back? Are we going to come back? I wrote so many, if this is the last Community episode I ever talk about posts. And then it wasn't for years, but it was always that like anticipation of this could be the last one that we watch together. And like, this could be the last thing that we do together. So there was always that sentimentality and
maybe that's why it's appealing to so many people right now, because people are feeling very sentimental and thinking about like, we don't necessarily have all day long to tell people how we feel about them. And so they're looking for things that reflect that back to them. And so, yeah, that's why, I mean, I know I've been watching it during this break because it's exactly enough time for me that I'm watching it again. And I'm just like reliving all these amazing, like remembering all these funny moments and conversations. And I've been I see the cast now, you know, Danny especially, but I mean I don't actually see them, but also Gillian, and it's just nice, like we've been trading messages and it's given everyone a reason to kind of talk to each other again. And like well, I mean that was actually my favorite part of the table read, well, I guess it was the Darkest Timeline podcast, was when Donald found out about the group chat that he was
oh my gosh. have we all been there too in our lives where we're like, wait, there's a group chat with us?
And I love, and
every group chat.
Always Gillian has the funniest reaction, and she just like ran off screen. There are few people on earth with funnier first reactions. Like Gillian was always like so delightful, just right off the bat. Whatever the first thing she gave you was the thing you put in the show, because she's just so. That was also a cute moment when Donald was saying he always found her funny, and she just never, because Gillian was always like that. She's so humble and she's so funny and lovable, and she was the one that like when I left the show and I after season 4 and I was saying goodbye to the cast, like I was a mess for everyone, but when I left Gillian to last, and I totally like lost it because she's just the best. And Britta is like, it's just so funny to constantly call her the worst because she is literally the best person. Same thing with like, I mean, same thing with Danny, like to think of him as unemotional, like to think of him like that when he is literally the warmest, sweetest person. I mean, that's just a testament to both of their, you know, their skill.
It was fun when we did the rewatch tonight of the table read, because it was like watching all the actors slip into their like nuances again. And the first time around, that was the thing that I was struck with, because it was like, oh man, like Danny's cadence and just all of the actors being able to slip back into those personalities. It was so fun to watch.
Yeah,
also, Gillian has the best physical stuff in the show, I feel like, because the Christmas tree dance, I mean, that's all, all that needs to be said is the Christmas tree dance is the best thing.
No, my
I
new
always think
best
of the
thing.
Pizza Hungry dance.
Yeah,
The
new best thing is Gillian proudly showing you her canister of sperm and then realizing she has to, like she didn't want it. She goes through like 4 different things all at one time. It was perfect. Oh, no.
I'm gonna apologize because I'm Canadian, so I gotta say sorry before I jump in. But I just have one question that I'm not gonna get this chance probably again, so I wanted to ask you, Megan. 2 of my favorite episodes are intermediate documentary filmmaking and documentary filmmaking redux. I love those 2, and I know you guys work on them as a group, but Explanabrag and Complicel, are those yours? Like, are those in the original script?
No, they're not in the original script, because I remember being in a rewrite room and writing and us coming up with that. And I'm pretty sure it was in reference to, or it came out of Humble Brag, which was a thing that Harris Whittles was doing on Twitter. And we were talking about it, and I think that's where, I could be wrong, but I think that's what it grew out of. But no, I can't take credit for that one because I'm pretty sure that wasn't me. But witnessing that, but also being in the room when they came up with that, I'm Jeff Winger's dumb gay dad, like run. Oh, fun. And I don't think I had anything to do with that, but like, oh my God. And seeing them shoot it was so funny. Oingo Boingo. I was like, what is this? I don't know what. Anyway.
I also recommend the blooper of that scene because
it's great.
Just recommend the bloopers in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I really loved those episodes. I loved that I got known as doing the like cheap episodes. The production kind of would come sort of say to me like, hey Meg, more like those. And I was like, it's not like I'm a staff writer. It's not like I went up to Dan and was like, hey, I really think we should do this sort of episode. I write the episodes he tells me to write. And he had that that bottle episode and then the documentary episodes. And so once I was in charge and wrote that one, then I got the second one, which was really like the Dean episode was just so crazy to break. But it was so good, and like we were like so excited to do another one, and production was really excited because those episodes I think you're supposed to be able to shoot more quickly, and that was nothing plus we had a lot of great improvisers, and that episode allowed for more improvisation just in general. But yeah, there are, I think some of my favorite moments are in those episodes, in the Chang bald cap on top of his F hair. I can't even remember the order of it. But when I was on set to watch him do that talking head, I mean, so funny. Like I'm literally dying. Like we would say that all the time in the room. It was just craziness, that shoot. And the Russos did, I think they might have done those episodes too. They definitely did the Joe Russo did the cooperative calligraphy, but I'm pretty sure he did both, at least one of the second documentary episode, I think he did. But yeah, thanks. I mean, I thought the characters, it was a perfect thing for our characters to do, to like speak directly to camera, and also the element of Abed being in control of the story, and that being another layer on top of like what you were watching, is like you knew that this is Abed's eye, he's looking at these things, and that gives you like a little bit like, for instance, the in the first documentary episode when oh, he did both. Yeah. Thank you. When Shirley takes the camera from him and does her own talking head, because she like and she records her own, and then he pops into the background of it. But like that's such a funny joke that we could never do on a regular episode, because you need the setup of that's anyway. I thought that they were really fun, and I think initially there might have been a little bit in the first episode of like wanting to make fun of that format as being like a cheat or being easy. And then we just fell in love with it. And it was sort of like this thing of like, oh, now I get why people do this, because it's awesome and it works really well. And you can also shoot it really quick and everybody seems really funny. Anyway, so that was
awesome.
If you're going to talk about community, we're just going to sit here and listen.
Did you guys watch Hearts of Darkness or anything? Yeah,
definitely. Watched Hearts of Darkness a bunch. Dan and I met. I remember us I remember drawing story circles on bar napkins at this place called The Roost in Atwater Village in LA that had no windows, and like God knows what time it was of the day. But we were coming up with the idea of it, from very early, it was the Dean going insane, basically trying to make a commercial for Greendale. So we knew that was like the overarching story, but we then were coming up with all the like, Annie being script supervisor, which I really loved, because that seems like exactly like her role.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But people have noted, I think, before, that her talking head where she's like, the Dean is a genius, he has to be, is like pretty much what I was feeling while I was writing that, was like, this has to be the most important thing we've ever done. was fun.
Oh.
I am very happy.
Well, I will let you guys have
Yeah, because that's what we want
the
to do
rest of
now.
your
Thanks, Megan.
go hang out with my my new niece, see
Absolutely.
her. So but really, guys, thanks again. I can't say enough about like everything that all of you have done for the show, and I know that I speak for everybody that was involved with it, that we like have always noticed and appreciated and loved the fans, and you guys keep it alive for us. And so anything we can do to, if anybody wants to interview me about an episode or whatever, like especially right
Just
now,
got 8
let's do
emails.
it, because we love this.
Hey.
Sorry, but I'll end off for now. All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Megan.
guys.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thanks so
Megan.
much.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Beautiful.
All right, take a deep breath.